Mrs. Olalade George-Aremu is a seasoned professional with over 15 years experience spanning academia, HR, leadership, and organizational consulting. With a multidisciplinary background, she is deeply committed to advancing gender equity, professional excellence, and organizational transformation. Currently pursuing a PhD at the University of Leicester, Mrs. Ololade's research focuses on gender diversity, women in leadership, and organizational culture, particularly examining the dynamics of corporate boards. She complements her research with a strong academic presence, facilitating courses in decision management, organizational behavior, human resources, and leadership, equipping professionals with the skills and knowledge to thrive in their careers. A professional career includes leadership roles such as vice president, people and culture at the Energy Solar, senior HR business partner at Konga Online Shopping, strategic HR positions at Afri Invest West Africa, and the people development consultant at Age UK. Our experience spans human resource strategy, organizational development and career development, and policy formulation. She is also passionate about coaching and mentoring employees at all levels and designing training programs to enhance organizational performance. As the founder of the Oli Company, Ololade has created a platform for empowering professionals through an online academy, monthly career clinics, career clarity calls, and coaching programs. She holds the Senior Professional in Human Resource International certification. She is also an Associate Fellow of the Higher Education Academy and actively contributes to WIMBIS and the Boardroom Africa. Our work continues to inspire individuals and organizations to achieve their highest potential. She is married with two nations. With Jesus Joy, please make welcome Mrs. Ololade Aremu George. You're welcome, ma.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Good morning to everyone on the call. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share. I am so grateful to the pastorate, to all my brothers and sisters who believed that I could deliver this morning. I will share my screen right away and go into it. Before I start, I'm a teacher and I love interactions. Before I begin, I really love interactions. I write so much on interactions, and it helps me to understand that I am actually passing knowledge across. So before I share my screen, I just want some feedback as to maybe as many people as possible on the call who will just tell us what they currently do. Just a feedback, what do you do? We're talking about careers, and this is an opportunity for you to find answers to your career. So if you just want to drop in the chat room, what do you do? What type of career are you into? And when you're talking about career, regardless of what you're doing at the moment, you want to tell us so much about, as much as possible, about what your career is. And when I'm talking about career, I'm talking about what you are defined at, not the job that you do now, but what you are defined at. I am defined as an HR professional wherever I go. I lecture, I teach, but I see myself more as an HR professional. So please let me get feedback on the call very quick. I think in the chat room very quickly while I share my screen. And I also want to thank Mr. Cobb. You've done fantastically. In fact, while I had to jot a number of things down because you have actually nailed a lot of things I would also be emphasizing on this morning. Thank you. I've only gotten one response. Yes, accounting professional. I think I would like as much as possible before we go ahead. Finance professional. I want to see how many professionals we have in the house today. If you're an accountant, an admin professional, but my interest is in HR, interesting. How many more people do we have? Do we just have finance professionals on this call? IT, wow, interesting. So we have finance, we have HR, we have IT. Do we have medical people in the house? Do we have people outside doing, okay, we have two people in IT now. I would love to see so much because because my experience cut is more practical. I deal with a lot of practical situations. So I will try as much as possible to answer questions relating to the professions we have in the room. So we have finance, I have a microbiologist, I have an health economist. That's an interesting career. Health economist in the house. Interesting. Okay, thank you for the feedback. Please keep dropping it, and it will also help us as facilitators to help channel this conversation around your careers. So I have the privilege again, which I really appreciate, and I thank God for this amazing opportunity. I do so much of career counseling, and also I believe so much. I think one of the call upon my life is to ensure as much as possible to help people achieve fulfillment in their careers. It pains me so much, when I see people, especially when we see Africans who were living like lions in Africa, they come into the UK and they start living like mouse, and people with little or no positions at all. It's really very painful, even across different facets or economics or country you find yourself. I believe strongly in the fact that you can achieve as much as God has deposited inside of us. And it takes a lot of intentionality. It takes a lot of knowledge, and it takes a lot of action. And that's some of the things I'll be sharing on the call. Thank you. I see quite a number of feedback. So I'm just going to let it keep running while I move on. So I'm going to start by discussing something very important, which is where I am going to start from. I'm going to start from talking about mindset. The reason why I'm starting from mindset is no matter what we are going to discuss or what you've heard so far, if you do not have the right mindset, or you don't have the right shift in your mind towards achieving the career, the best career in this land, you will not get it. Why? When I was coming to the UK, I heard a lot of stories. There were many options. There were so many people saying different things. You could start from this, you can start from this. These are the options available. But it took me to listen. You know, it's one thing for you to hear what people are saying. It's another thing for you to decide what you want to be, or what you want to affect your thinking and who you are. Understanding who you are will help you also develop the right mindset to becoming what God wants you to be. And that is why I feel so strongly that our mindset is everything that will get us into the right place and become what God wants us to be in this city. One thing that helped me and gave me a strong determination that I am not just going to succeed in this land, but that God has given me a portion in this land that I'm going to take over, is because I heard the story of a very wonderful friend and sister who at times when you hear a lot of stories, people have not done well, people are on just care jobs all their days. People, they just keep telling you things. You're almost scared of, oh, why did I relocate? I could have stayed back at home. But we forget that there is a sizable number of people who didn't even go through some of those jobs or some of those areas, and they are successful. Some started from some of those jobs today, but today, if you check their status, they are successful in their careers. And what happened, what made the difference is the mindset. Why? Because the reason is because there is a lot that needs to be done, and there's a lot that you have to determine to do. And that's some of the things Mr. Toba also was talking about, a lot that you need to do. There's a scripture in the Word of God that I cherish so much. It says, what you think is what you become. And that is why it's important for you to believe first of all. And that is where I'm going to start from. Forgive the teacher part of me, but I will start from, because I need some feedback on this call. To believe that you haven't come to this land to just eat like a church mouse or church rat or whatever the adage says, that you will excel in this land. There's a scripture in the Bible in Revelation that says that we will reign on earth, here on earth, because God has caused us to become priests and kings here, even as He reigns above. So that understanding enough should give you a sense of something like this ginger within you that helps you to understand that there is a lot more that we can tap from in this land. Trust me, this land is a land flowing with milk and honey. There's a lot of benefits in it, but there is you need to understand how to get there, what to do differently, and begin the process almost now. So as I continue, I also want feedback. What in terms of your mindset? I want some positive affirmations on this call for as many people as possible to begin to tell yourself, I have come to this land to reign. I will not live like a church mouse. I have come to reign. I will reign. I will rule in this land. I just want some feedback as I move on. The reason being that is that until you change your mindset, I have heard a lot. Time will not permit me to share as many. I've heard somebody that told me to look at the ground of the city center and told me that, see, as plain as the ground is, that's how plain it is here in the UK. You cannot get anything. And I'm like, seriously, will you just look at me for the first time and just say that to me? You don't know where I'm coming from. You don't know who I am, but you have already made me feel like, why did I even relocate in the first instance? So there's a lot of things going around that can make you feel less than yourself. But you need to convince yourself according to the word of God. And most of us got promises before leaving Nigeria or Africa. Why are you still not living on that promise? That promise still exists. And we need to ensure that we do not derail from that word he has given to us. So please, let's start with a positive and an optimistic mind as I move on. Now we'll go into scenarios. And this is a real life scenario I'm sharing with you because before this session, apart from my own experience, I spoke to a few people, real people, to get feedback on what is it about you searching for jobs? What are your concerns? What have you faced? And I got about two. I'll share two very quickly. This feedback scenario I'm giving to you is somebody who was a CFO, is currently a CFO in Nigeria, a CFO who relocated with his family. So you can imagine it's somebody at that level and attended a UK interview. He was eager to impress them. He dived into his expertise, showcasing examples, techniques he has mastered over the years. He has worked in different African countries. He came, but however, during the interview, all the examples he gave were just related to the Nigerian market and the unique dynamics of the Nigerian market. While that was impressive to him, very impressive, he felt like, oh, I've nailed the interview, I've done everything. They appeared very outdated and irrelevant to the context of the UK environment. What did he get? Unfortunately. I want feedback on the call. How many of us have gotten unfortunate messages? And how many unfortunate messages have you gotten? Because this was the reason why this particular scenario, this particular person got a negative response. And they told him he was even lucky to have gotten an interview. Some of us have applied and we still keep getting back and forth interviews. You don't even get to the point of being granted an interview. And the feedback was, you seem knowledgeable, you know the job, but you lack the understanding of the local market. That also buttresses what Mr. Toba was telling us, the market, the environment. Second scenario is this. Another interview, determined to make an impact. Now he has learned from the previous interview. He goes all out. He presents himself as a global finance expert, citing strategies and achievement far above the scope. Now, this was the problem. Far above the scope of the advertised role. The interviewer, though was impressed, feels he is overqualified and unlikely to commit to long term. At the end of the interview, when I asked him, I said, how did you answer those questions? He told me, because of some of the ways, you prepare a few people for interviews. And he said, I said this, I said that. And I'm like, wow, what was the job? What was the job position? And he told me the job position was a finance analyst or something. I said, then why did you go and tell them you've done? Why did you go outside the scope of the job? Nobody wants to, because like what Mr. Toba said also, the person interviewing might be less younger, maybe just has one certificate or just finished BSc or is even well younger than you, and they don't want to be intimidated. So he got the feedback a few days later and he says, thank you for your time. We have just decided to move forward with other candidates. you are overqualified for the position. And that was because he felt like he wanted to do more, or he could show that he can do more at the interview, forgetting the fact that it's a different Nigerian market is the market whereby, or an African market whereby you want to oversell yourself. In fact, in Nigeria, because I've recruited, I've managed human resources across different organizations. So when I want to hire a finance expert, I want somebody that has done business planning. I want somebody that has done treasury, that has done. I want to hire little for more, if you understand what I mean. But that's not the case here in the UK. It's good to have that understanding as we move along. Now, we want to then go into why, because this is a major problem, and I see a few feedback on the call. However, there's a lot of problems, a lot of scenarios I could have given, but I limited it to those two. So how can we, I want to go right into what do we need to do because of time to begin to review our position, review our career portfolio. I call it your career portfolio, to align with the environment we find ourselves and to also succeed in this environment. The very first thing is you must know your environment. I won't stress on it because the first speaker has already done that. Know this market. Understand UK for what? Don't understand UK for the bad information you've heard. Understand UK for the fact that you want to reign, you want to rule in this land. You want to understand everything about it because you want to take advantage of every opportunity that exists in this land. So the first thing you need to do is that go do a thorough research about the job market. We have gotten some information, thanks to the first speaker, about the job market, the local practices, all the nuances of this environment. If you are in the health sector, go and learn. If your career is health, go and understand everything that is required for the health sector. If you are in the IT sector, if you are in the finance sector, if it is human resources, whatever it is, go and learn it. Don't assume. Go and know. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is key. Another important thing to do very quickly is you must have an understanding for the skill. It's one thing for, and I'll use maybe the finance role or project management or IT. I studied computer information systems, so I have an understanding of how the IT space works here too. It's important for you to understand that, for example, I studied computer, but I ended up in human resources. I also had the opportunity of lecturing in the university here, in the University of Leicester. So I've had quite a vast experience. I will not come to the UK now and then put all of this experience in my CV and then say I'm looking for an HR job. I will just waste my time. What I then need to do is to understand what environment do I want to, which sector do I want to tailor my career in that aligns with God's purpose and all of the areas where you really want to excel in. Then what are the skills I require? If it is lecturing, for example, there are paths to becoming the best lecturer in this land and to grow in your career as a lecturer. You must follow that path. If you want to be an HR professional, you want to excel, you want to rise, there are things you need to do. You must understand those skills. You must understand those expertise. You must get clarity before you even begin. What I see people do is that they'll say, please, can you, the first question people would come to me with, please, can you help me rework my CV? I just want it to align with the UK market. And I'm like, it doesn't happen that way. I can't just sit down and work your CV. We have all have to have a conversation. What core area where's your strength? What can you do? If a CFO, like the example I gave you, a CFO, for example, he has vast experience across all the areas of finance. You come to the UK now, you cannot say and come and start with, oh, I'm looking for a CFO job. You would almost stay for a very long time. What you then need to do is that you want to understand what aspect of finance do I need to focus on? How can I penetrate into the finance market, the finance sector, using the skills that is most suited for me? And you begin to understand, what do I need to do to ensure that I get into that? I'm just going to run very quickly now, but I want to stress very much on the fact that beyond knowing your environment, which is critical, Your skills, the skills that you need, you must understand it even as much more. Another very important which I normally share and advise with people, much as possible, is that for you to be able to succeed in any career, and especially if you want to rise very quickly, rising your ability to rise quickly depends on how well you're able to develop your career growth. And for you to be able to understand, where am I going to? How do I get there? Asking yourself questions like what I have here. What are my career aspirations? What do I know now? What skills do I have now? What skills do I need to develop? What are the things that I love to do? You know, all those real questions that maybe you were asked along maybe interviews and some of those things. They are real questions and practical questions that will help you begin to prepare yourself. Because one of the things, like we heard the first speaker said, is certifications and skills. You need to develop some core certifications. Even at my level and experience, I still have about 2 or 3 certifications I have told myself, despite some of the things I have even achieved, that I still have to do. Why? Because I'm not ready to remain at this level. I want to rise to the peak of my career. And it requires me to continue to check my skills and to be sure that my skills will remain relevant in another 5 years. And the earlier you start, the better for you. The next important thing is developing your CV and cover letter. I want to believe that there will be questions around this, and I'm so excited that Mr. Toba has a school for CV writing. So we would have, if you have any questions, I'm sure there will be a lot more to answer, but very critical to CV. And like I said earlier on, when you want to apply for a job, you already know the market, you've understood your market, you've understood your skills, your expertise, you've understood where you're going to. You now want to develop your it's almost like you are developing a resume. Some people will call it resume that just tells a short snip of what you have, your career portfolio. You now want to then develop it, because you're thinking about, how do I now get that job? I'm now looking for the job. I don't want, unfortunately, all the time. And I'll tell you some examples, give you some examples very quick, very soon. But one thing you need to do is the ability to structure your CV. There are quite a number of AI tools. I've heard people say, I've used AI tools to develop my CV. It has helped me get jobs. Fantastic. If you know how to use those prompts well, and it can help you, perfect. Some people have used people, they work with people to ensure that they have the right structure of CV. Whatever you do is fine. But the most important thing you want to do, and that is where the major work is, let's use a role, maybe a finance business partner or an HR business partner or an IT IT is broad. So for example, if you're looking for a career in IT, you can't just put your CV together and say, I'm an IT professional. You want to be a scrum master, software engineer, product manager, quite a number of roles. So you want to then tailor your CV maybe to a product manager. What you then want to do is, in your resume, some people will tell you it shouldn't be more than 2-page, 3-page, so that it's very concise and it speaks directly to what you're looking for. You want to have a CV that highlights your core certifications, that highlights your core educations, that aligns with the role. So for example, if you have tailoring experience, you have, I'm just trying to look for various, we are looking at a product manager now, or a finance business partner. You have experience in maybe tax. You have experience in a lot of Nigerians, we like writing a lot of exams and certifications. When you are applying for a finance business partner role, you then want, I'll show you an example in my next slide. You want to then look at what are the key requirements for that job and specify it on your resume. Highlight what is relevant, your work experience, your skills, and your achievements in line with that role. There are some personal information that are not important in your resume. In your CV, what you want to focus on is, what is the job description? You are almost mirroring the job description, and it aligns with your CV. The reason also is because most organizations use what we call an application tracking system. It is not an human being that goes through the CV. It is AI that goes through it. And what happens is that they have used algorithms to do a sort of matching. In fact, they tell you some matching, if it's not up to 90%, drop that CV. If the matching is not up to a certain percentage, depending on what has been that has been put into the system, has been locked into the system, it will reject the CV. So that is why you keep getting, unfortunately, I know somebody that by the time he replies, it's almost like as he clicks the submit button of application, 2 minutes after is unfortunately, it's always like that. It's always like that. Why? Because there is already a threshold on the system and you need to be very attentive. You pay attention to that. So always tailor your CV to every application. Cover letter too should be the same customer, because now your cover letter is now telling more about why you're interested in the role, why should we hire you, what makes you different from another candidate. So you need to also express yourself in a very enthusiastic way and a manner that will interest somebody to accept your application. Even if it's an AI that is reviewing your cover letter, some specific words that aligns with the job description must be in your cover letter so that you can get into the pool that can be shortlisted. The language in your CV has to be very clear, concise. Don't forget that you are in an English environment and there is a British form of way of writing, different from the US, which sometimes we struggle with if you're coming from Africa. So you need to understand some of those terminologies and use them appropriately so that you can get in. Right. So very quickly, there are a lot of job ads, quite a number of job ads we're familiar with. Very, very numerous job ads. There's quite a number. I've had opportunities to use different job ads. But some of the job ads that I've found, and I'll share with you, maybe during the question and answer, I also want to hear the feedback from the first speaker, Mr. Toba. One area where I know you can, okay, let me say this first. One thing I have realized is that there are, I think recruiters, I don't know why those recruiters do that anyway, but one thing I've realized is that there are some jobs that seems to be duplicated by different recruiters. So for example, you see finance analyst on Indeed, finance analyst on LinkedIn, finance analyst on another job board and everything. And you keep applying. The funniest thing is that it gets into, I think, the same system, and you always look like you're applying, you're not getting the same job. So what I decided to find out, especially in the UK market, is how can my CV get to the right place? How can your CV get to the right place? So what I noticed is that the best way to get it, there are various options. LinkedIn is good, but LinkedIn is always perfect because I would have loved to show a practical example because of time. If you go on LinkedIn and you click on jobs, click on finance jobs, for example, you will see quite a number of jobs that will come in. But one thing you want to pay attention to, at times you look at the number of applicants, you see 100 people, 500 people have already applied, you are going to be maybe the 110th person. I don't even bother for some of those applications. One of the ones that are very interesting and the ones that you should target is the company career page itself. That always gives you at least a response, maybe not a rejection the first time. A response. If you have gone through the first stages based on what the first facilitator has said and some of the things I've said at the beginning. Now, if you go to jobs at gov.uk and you go into that particular space where you're searching for your job, for the job you want, be specific to the role. Don't forget we started by saying that what is your expertise? You put your details in it. It gives you all the jobs within that area, within that location. So what you then want to begin to do now is now to look at the jobs, look at the job description, tailor your CV to that and apply directly. You apply directly to those websites. These are some of the things. Even on LinkedIn, if you go on LinkedIn, you want to look at who is the recruiter for this particular role. Most times, you want to connect with the recruiter. You want to ask the recruiter more questions to be sure that the role is not just a general role or the role has not been filled. You want to be sure that it's still valid, it's still vacant, so that you are targeting. Don't forget that you don't. There was a testimony of someone in my church a few weeks ago, and she said after the 200, and I mean it, 200 rejections, she finally got a job. It was a big testimony. 200, unfortunately, that's a lot of frustration. So you want to avoid such experience and you want to target your application. I did something here. I don't know if you can see my screen. And I just thought I should highlight something very critical. This is an example of a finance analyst. For every job description, I just did something very quick just to nail some of my points. Is you want to focus on what are they looking for in your resume. And this is an example. This is something I cropped from LinkedIn just yesterday. So it's a valid rule. So you want to look at what are they looking for as a financial analyst. If you look at another role, similar though, financial planning analyst, they look similar roles, but there is a difference. So when you want to apply for these two roles, which you are qualified for, you want to pay attention to difference in the job responsibilities. Consider what are they looking for? What makes this role different from this other role? How do I want to ensure that I want to have these keywords in my resume so that when I apply for it, they know that I am the right person for the job? I also want to look at the knowledge and the requirements. Here you will see things like excellent Excel skills. They said macro writing, including macro writing. See things like your previous experience as business analyst. Some of those things are very critical in your experience, in the ability for you to be able to show it in your application. If you look at that of a financial planning analyst, see like this is 4 years experience. Interesting. I was interested to see that this was a 2 to 3 years experience, but let's leave the experience aside now and look at what are the things they are looking for. They are looking for somebody with an experience, preferably in a multinational business with that's financial planning and analysis expertise. So what that means is that your resume, and that's the number one, your resume must show that you can do this. Whatever you're submitting as your application must show how you have applied this in terms of budgeting, in terms of executive presentation. You must be able to show the ability that you can make presentations aligning to this. And you must be able to show how you have used it in different environments for you to be able to be shortlisted for roles like this. So these are some key things that you need to pay a little more attention to in your applications that you can get. I can get this quickly. I'm mindful of time, so I'm going to run very quickly now. So now prepare for your UK interview. So now it's one thing. Let's assume you've gotten the job, you've done everything. After maybe you've gotten like 10 unfortunately. Finally, after the 12th, the 20th, the 30th, the 50th one, you've got somebody to say, yes, we want to have an interview. You don't want to fail. After going through that stress, you don't want to get to that point where they tell you you're overqualified or you have spoken way above what you should say. So what you then want to do is that please, before any interview, prepare. Research about the company. Information, this part of the world, interestingly, everything you need is online. Go to Gov, go and search about the company, go to LinkedIn, go and find out about most times, and that's the very transparent environment. They have put in the person that will interview you in the email. They normally would do it. You'll be interviewed by Jane Clark or something. Go and put her name on LinkedIn. Who is she? What experience? For example, if you have more qualification than the person you want to interview, before you go to the interview, humble yourself. Just humble. Just assume. Just at times, I always tell people, I say, when you're going to that interview, just wear the cap of that role you are in. It's one thing for you to, somebody asked me, I said, but I will be lying. It's not about lying. It's about you aligning yourself. I don't know if I have the right words now. Aligning yourself to that particular role to get it. Just focus on what they are asking you and don't overdo it. Prepare, ask. Know the person that will interview you. Ask as much questions as you can and practice very well for the interview. Most of the information you need is available online. Another thing is that they would ask you, most questions come with behavioral interview questions, which as Nigerians, you should not, or Africans, you shouldn't be too new to this, but the ability to answer these questions also matter. You want to be able to tell them about yourself. And when they're asking you about yourself, you know, when I'm sitting for interviews in Nigeria, people will start from, my secondary school to my primary school. Don't please focus. It's a focused, most times the interviews are even 30 minutes. They don't waste time. It's 30 minutes. They tell you 30 minutes. And sometimes you might, in another thing is that you need to prepare for assessment. If you then have put in your resume or your CV that you can run models, in financial models, be ready to write assessment or modeling because they would ask you. You might be very fortunate that they even ask you to come and present it to them. So you need to be sure that you are equipped. And that's why I started by saying the ability for you to focus on your expertise. Don't, if you know that your strength is in one particular area above the other, focus on that one. At least use it to get a job first. Then you can now begin to diversify. It's very important. Know the values of the company. Go to their webpage, check as much as information, dress yourself for that interview, speak as much as possible. I attended a career tour, and some people say that, oh, the way we speak in Nigeria may put us at the, it's not, I don't believe in all of those things. I don't believe in it. I believe in the ability for you to express yourself clearly. Make sure you are clear in communication. Make sure you understand what they are asking you. If you are not sure, politely ask and be sure that you are answering the question. You are not underselling yourself and you are not overselling yourself. Very important. The next one, which I think also is important, I will not stress on it because we discussed it, is the cultural differences when you're working with people. I had the opportunity, and because of some of the things I have learned, where I currently work and support, I always, for somebody like me, and I'm a very good example for this, that I've managed people, I've done head of human resource. Now, you now give me a role. And that thing just keeps, I keep pinching myself and I keep making fun of it to my husband. I said, how can you give me a role to just be collating something for you? Do you know, don't they know the capacity that I can do? Can't they just use me? I will even ask them, I said, please, can I help you with your learning, some areas in your learning? They'll say, no. We don't want to stress you. This is just what we want you to do. So, and I've learned. Take it, follow their pace. They are not so, like we do a lot. We are very resilient, and it's a very good ability which will help you go far in this country. But when you get some cultural environment, understand it. Don't overdo it so that you are not seen as they begin to use words that you might not like. Oh, you are too overbearing. Oh, she's too forward. So you need to be very careful and ensure that you align with the culture of the company. Professionalism, understand their work-life balance. Some of them will not appreciate you sending mails to them after a certain hours of the day. So you need to understand and use that to build yourself into that organization. And I use this also because I be in an organization now whereby your next job is in that organization. So all you just need to do is to move from maybe that support role to the head of that role or to another role. Those are some of the things that will help you. Your ability for you to show that you understand the culture, you understand the environment, and you're able to apply in your next role. Transferable skills begin to is relevant at that point and is then useful as you move along. Okay. Another thing which I will be closing with very quickly is if you have all of those things, because I'm focusing on getting yourself a job in the UK. One major thing that I know people run away from, which I think also is one thing that sets us back as Africans, is the fact that we are not ready to educate ourselves. We limit ourselves. Some of us have come in because of education. We've gotten our education and we have stopped there. It's almost very critical now for you to begin to understand what more do I need to know? How can I ensure that I am of a better version every day so that I can remain relevant? I don't just want to remain on a certain job, on a certain role. I want to keep evolving. I want to keep moving in my career, and I want to get to the peak of it. The secret is self-development. Why I saw this during the week while I was doing some of my research, and I discovered that some of the top skills coming up in 2025, things have changed. Things have changed. So I'm just using this to encourage us to please learn, research, find out more, and begin to develop yourself so that when there are opportunities on your current job, in your current organization, or you are seeking for other opportunities somewhere else, you can fit into. And finally, One of the things that can help you secure jobs quickly is, apart from self-development, leverage networks. Like Mr. Toba has said, leverage networks on LinkedIn, past environment, past maybe alumni programs you had, job fairs. You cannot do life alone. You cannot remain at one level and succeed at that level in a space. You need that network. Build those networks. Key into it. Let somebody speak for you. Let somebody tell you, oh, they are recruiting in my organization. Apply this in this manner. It helps you. Seek mentorship. We run away from mentorship, but it's a brilliant way that has personally helped me in this land. Another thing that is helping me now is volunteering. People don't volunteer. Time will not permit me to share more examples with you. I've had somebody that have gotten a job of a first job, £100,000, over £100,000 because she volunteered. So what she was able to do is, because she volunteered, they saw her skill and was ready to pay for that skill. That is why volunteering is good. It might cost you, but it pays on the long run. And my final reflection, and this is what I want to leave you with, is, do you first of all understand that career for you? I think that's where some of us struggle. Because we find ourselves in different form, we are doing different type of jobs today. But it's not about the job, it's about your career. Do you understand that God designed career path for you? Do you know that career? Do you know it to the point that you understand how much fulfillment you should get from it? What will you do? This question is what I will leave you with. What will you do? Align yourself with your career. From today, what will you do differently to ensure that that career you came with from Africa doesn't perish in this land? That you will reign on this earth, in this same land, or wherever you find yourself, just like you reigned when you were in Africa. And I hope that this reflection will get you thinking of what more you need to do and how you need to position yourself properly to get in there. Thank you very much. I don't know if I've gone above my time. Thank you very much for this opportunity.